It's time for baseball's last frontier, stories from the Pecos League, the podcast that will open your door to baseball's entry level, telling you the stories of the teams, players, and coaches of an independent minor league circuit. I'm your host, Bruce McClure, and I have the pleasure of introducing to you my friend, partner, co-host, and man on the inside, Evan Katz. Evan, how we doing this week?
Good, Bruce. Out here in North Platte, we're several games into the season. We've gotten settled and into a routine. Also, I should mention we did a little bit of shuffling based on the four players and coaches that have some oversight responsibilities. I've been moved to the bullpen to be the bullpen coach. We've got a couple of other guys that are supporting Todd that are on the bench. One of our pitchers is an assistant of his from Plattsburgh State who's out here pitching and helping with the pitchers. I'll talk a little more about him later on. So we've reshuffled. I'm out in the bullpen with the pitchers, which is really enjoyable. You know, we keep track of the game and we have a little bit of time to talk, but we're always focusing and figuring out how to be ready when it comes time to come into the game. But we're underway in the season. It's also been a little bit of some new horizons here, and I'll speak literally on the horizon. Talking to one of the trainers who supports the team, he happened to mention to me that he supports the high school football team. I said, "Oh, where do you guys travel for your games?" Well, because North Platte is a Class A, the biggest class by school size in Nebraska, they sometimes have to travel 4 hours one way for a football game to find a city of the same size. So they have long days for their football games.
I complain about 30 minutes to my office in my pesky day job, 4 hours for it. Oof. Wow.
Well, out here, the miles do pass fast, although they also add up. The other thing that I was introduced to today, I missed this as I was growing up, hacky sack, which is a little sack that athletes use to bounce off their heads and kick with their feet. It's probably about 2 inches in diameter, a little soft, almost like a little bean bag. And I was invited to participate in hacky sack with our pitchers as they were doing some warm-up drills out in the bullpen. So that was a treat for me, just starting hacky sack at 69 years old, and I held my own.
I remember the hacky sack fad years ago and seeing kids, yeah, wherever it might be, in a circle playing the game, for lack of a better term. We're showing our age here a little bit. And so I had no idea that hacky sack was used as I guess an agility uh,
Yeah.
training.
I was informed.
Huh.
This is really good for hip mobility.
Okay. Okay. Are we sure that they're telling the truth and they didn't want to see you just fail at this, or what do you think?
I think it's true. Hacky sack would have been on the banned list of activities for pitchers if there was some kind of detriment. So I think it's okay.
Okay. Well, let's talk about last week for the North Platte 80s. You had what, 4 games, I think it was?
Well, we were scheduled for two in Garden City starting last
Uh-huh.
Wednesday. Unfortunately, the first game was rained out, and I was introduced on the way to Garden City, which is about 240 miles south of North Platte, our shortest road trip of the year. I thought people told me Kansas was flat, and I thought to myself, it's even flatter than I ever imagined. But it was also very beautiful and very inspiring, and just gives you a flavor for what it's like in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
You got agriculture and some of the little wells with the apparatus that goes up and down. They're called nodding donkeys, is what they're called, and there's just a little bit of oil out there. We were in Garden City, and it was the first pro game for many of the 80s. A lot of players fresh out of college, so it was a brand new experience. Garden City's an established franchise. We had Ben Smith on the mound for us. He threw six excellent innings, held them to a run. We were up 4-1. We played a little small ball, a couple of errors. We were up 4-1 in the ninth. But unfortunately, Garden City, which has a very, very tough team, they tied it in the ninth and walked us off in the 10th. Very disappointing, knowing that we had them, but they're also a very good team.
Small
Game
ball is
two.
unusual in the in the Pecos League.
I'm sorry, say that again, Bruce.
Small ball is very unusual in the Pecos League.
Right. Well, Todd takes advantage of that, and it's an opportunity. We'll talk more about that in Game 3, where small ball
Okay.
made a big difference. But it is a high offense league. There's a lot of errors, but the whole idea about baseball and in any sport is you want to catch your opponents off guard, and if you can steal a run at a strategic point, a small ball is always an option.
Hmm. Let's move on. Keep going.
So game 2, we had Pierce Salvago on the mound again, held Garden City at home, our home opener, to 2 runs in 5 innings. We were down 2-1 after 5. We had a number of relievers, some pitching for their first time in pro ball, trying to hold Garden City back, but unfortunately we lost 14-3. We score 7 runs in 2 games, and as we've talked about, you got to score more than that to win in the Pecos League. And then game 3 at home, we needed runs and we got them up 6-0 after 3. And Rene Colon, who's an assistant coach with the State University of New York at Plattsburgh with Todd, where he's an assistant coach, he's making a comeback here at the age of 31. Pitched at Jackson State in 2016 in his home of Puerto Rico. He has been pitching in very competitive leagues off and on when he's been home for extended periods of time. Uh, he came in, held uh, Garden City down. He left in the 5th. After 5, it was 6-5. And this is perfect for the Pecos League. As we said earlier, we want the starting pitchers to keep the team in the game. Rene did that. Relievers Ray White and Luke Harris, who got the win, kept Garden City in check. The big hit was a 3-run triple by TJ Beninati from Plattsburgh State, put us up 9-6. And our two-way shortstop, Jake Boucher, got the save in the 9th, coming in from shortstop and getting the last 2 outs. And that was really gratifying to get that first win. We had an off day the next day. It's always good to win when you have an off day the next day.
That's for sure. You can celebrate a little and ride that high for another 24 hours. But you had one more game last week, right?
Oh, well, last night we were supposed to play uh, Santa Fe. We got rained out, but before we talk about the rainouts, I just want to give a couple of highlights. We have got TJ Beninati again hitting over 400 with a slew of extra base hits. Center fielder Rico Riley, who didn't hit well in the first couple games, has 3 hits and a home run. Our outfield, which includes TJ and Rico and Caleb Copeland, have been tracking down every fly ball. That last game, the infield played a clean game. We made no errors against Garden City in that third game, which made a big difference. And then I just want to mention small ball. Rene Colon, when we were up 4-0, and Todd was trying to stretch that lead. He called a suicide squeeze. It was the night's most dramatic moment. Rene put the bunt down and scored from third base our 6'8" first baseman, Kobe Tweeton, who's being scouted by MLB. He scampered home on the suicide squeeze and made it 5-0. And so it was just 1 run, but it stretched the lead from 4 runs to 5 runs and eventually to 6. And it's the kind of thing where, a 4-run lead in the Pecos lead is good, but a 6-run lead is much better. So that small ball, it's good to get some runs on the board, but it's also good to extend the lead when you have it.
What's the old saying in pro ball? Get the insurance run for later in the game. And it seems like in the Pecos League, you need a lot more than just one insurance run.
Well, I think one way to look at it, when I'm looking at the scoreboard, if there's a lead in the game, I'm always cutting it in half. If the other team is ahead by four
That's a good point.
runs, I think, well, it's really only 2 because it's easy to score. And if we're up by 4, I'm thinking, well, it looks like 4, but this is the Pecos League, so it's probably more like 2.
Hmm. That's actually a good way of putting it. This league, you can score and score at will. It's almost like some low minor league hockey games that I was watching years ago. So were you rained out last night?
We were rained out last night. We're getting ready to go to McCook, to the historic town of McCook, Nebraska, and we have today a guest who pitched in McCook in 1959, Pat Jordan, We're so pleased to be able to have him talk about his experiences in McCook. He grew up in Connecticut, chronicled his pitching exploits as a high school graduate in 1959. He pitched in McCook in a couple of other years, in a couple of other locations, flamed out after 3 years. He chronicled his minor league experiences in the book A Fall Spring, and we're so glad that Pat Jordan is going to be able to join us today.
Evan recorded this interview with Pat a few days ago, and we're going to bring that to you now and step out. So let's push play on that, give everybody a chance to listen to Pat Jordan, and we'll be back after the interview.
So today we're joined by Pat Jordan, an award-winning sports writer and author who chronicled the 1959 season in the Nebraska State League after he was signed as a bonus baby by the Milwaukee Braves. And he followed that book up in 1997 with a nice Tuesday when he made a comeback in the minor leagues at the age of 56. But we're going to focus today on Pat's experience in the Nebraska State League and with the McCook Braves, which is a little south of North Platte. I'd like to say good morning to Pat in Abbeville, North Carolina. Abbeville, excuse me.
Yes, Abbeville. It's 4,500 people.
Excellent. You're enjoying your retirement there?
Oh, yeah. I sit on the front porch a lot and feed my cats.
So take us back in time to 1959, Pat. You're high school phenom. You're being courted in the free agent days by major league teams. And how did you end up with the Milwaukee Braves and shortly thereafter signing your contract, ending up in Nebraska?
As I said, I wanted to sign with the Yankees. I was a Yankee fan. They had a lot of Italians on the team. A lot of people didn't know, but I'm a very Italian, mother and father. My father's name was Pasquale Michele Giordano, and he changed it to Patrick Michael Jordan 4 days before I was born. So I would be the first member of our family to have an American name. But we loved the Yankees because they had a whole bunch of Italians. And plus, I love Whitey Ford. And so I wanted to sign with them in the worst way.
And you grew up in suburban Connecticut, correct?
Right. Fairfield, Connecticut, which is a bedroom of New York, really. It's where all the ad executives and big deal lived in Connecticut, and then they took a train to New York every day. But so I wanted to sign with the Yankees desperately. They offered less than all the other teams. Not much less, but less. Chicago White Sox, Cincinnati. We went out to New York twice. That was a funny story. I was thrown to Johnny Blanchard. And they were calling up Ryan Duran from the minor leagues.
Oh boy.
But I'm thrown to behind, off the mound before they had batting practice. And the catcher was catching. Scouts were behind him, with notebooks. And I'm throwing, and he stopped after I cut loose with a cuff of fastball, turned his back to me and put the sponge in his glove. And that the Yankees were furious with Johnny Blanchard because now, it made it look like I was throwing so hard that was hurting his hand. Anyway, we wanted to sign with the Yankees. They didn't offer as much as the other teams. My family was poor. My father was a professional gambler, so he was always one step from insolvency, losing the house and all. So I had to make some money quick so we could pay off the mortgage. So we went to Cincinnati, Chicago, White Sox, and then the fourth team was Milwaukee. They offered the most. So at the time, Milwaukee was, they had a dirt parking lot. This is 1959. It wasn't great. The whole field wasn't even manicured. I mean, the outside of around the stadium. And it was very low key, and I liked it. I mean, like, Warren Spahn was a really funny guy. I hung out with him and Lou Burdett.
Yep.
Ran ring sprints with him. I said, "Oh, this big league life is great." You know, little did I know. So anyway, so I liked the Braves. The uniform was a little garish for me. I like the Yankees pinstripes, but anyway, so we signed with them. So I was there for about 4 or 5 days after that, working with the pitching coach, Whitlow Wyatt. And then they said, "Oh, you're going to McCook, Nebraska." So I'd only taken a couple of planes during the summer with my brother to go to these other cities. So I got on this puddle jumper, and I had like 14 stops.
This is from...
It took like an eternity. Up, down, you know.
This is from Milwaukee out to, you were flying into North Platte, Nebraska?
Yeah, I flew into North Platte, freezing. I had a little tiny windbreaker on. It was May, I think, late May. And to be safe, I put all my money, I didn't have much, like $200, in my luggage, and I had like a $20 bill on me. So I get off the plane, and my luggage is in Denver. So I'm wearing a T-shirt with a tiny little jacket on, and I'm freezing my ass off. And I got to take a taxi from North Platte to McCook. I said, "How far is it to the taxi driver?" He said, "It's down the road a piece."
That's like 40 or 50 miles, isn't it?
No, it's like 60 miles. And nothing but corn and alfalfa. Flat as a pancake.
Now,
you know what I mean?
You're a kid from suburban Connecticut. Is this your first time out in the hills of west central Nebraska?
Oh, yeah, it's the first time ever outside. You know, I mean, we went to Cincinnati, but that was a city. You know, and New York was a city, and Milwaukee was a city. But McCook and I never knew anything about the Midwest, you know, which is ironic because that's where I spent most of my career, short as it was in the Midwest. So, we were driving towards McCook. It took about an hour, and nothing, as far as the eye could see. Corn, alfalfa, that's it. Flat. So we go into McCook, and there was a sign going into McCook. It listed how many people and how many cows. And there were more cows. It was like, I don't know, maybe 1,800 people and 2,800 cows. And so now we go in, and everything is flat. So we go into town, and the first thing the guy does is takes a left straight up a hill.
Yep.
Straight up the only hill we've seen in an hour. And that's where McCook was built on. And the top of it, the hotel was, I'm not sure, St. John's, something or other.
And this is where you were going to stay? This is a hotel they were putting up the
only
18...
No, only temporarily. I mean, I was supposed to be there 2 days and find a room. That was the other thing. So the first day I was there, I went to, I had a walk to where the team was having practice, which was like a 30-minute walk. And I said to the coach, I said, "Well, where's where I stay?" And I felt like they had a dormitory or some kind of thing for minor leaguers, you know. He said, "I don't know, find a place." So now I'm still staying at the hotel. I think it was the St. George. And I'm staying at this hotel for like a week. And finally I found just a little bedroom that an old lady was renting out to 2 players, me and Ron Hunt.
Oh, yeah, Ron Hunt, New York Met, Montreal Expo.
Yeah, he started out with the Braves, yeah. And then he went to Expos. I think the Mets he might have ended up with. Anyway, so and Ron was sort of a weird guy. I wasn't used to guys. I was not a social kid. You know, I mean, I played baseball. To me, that was a job when I was a kid. My teammates weren't friends.
So tell me a little bit more. What is it like for you? So you're out there with other guys just finishing up high school out there in the middle of Nebraska for the first time. I mean, there's 6 teams in the Nebraska State League. You got McCook, you got North Platte, where is an Indians team. Hastings has the Giants. Kearney has the Yankees or Kearney. Grand Island has the Kansas City A's, and Holdridge has the Chicago White Sox.
They were all the same.
Yeah.
It was like playing in the same place. There was one field that was it might have been Kearney or I'm not sure. There was one field that was had a brick stadium, and it was nice. The rest of them were the same.
And how did you get around from McCook?
Oh, very simple. You had a school bus. Oh, and it was horrible. I mean, it's an old school bus. It wasn't, with the hard seats and everything. Oh, man. And, but the trips weren't that long. I mean, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. A lot of times we didn't stay overnight because if we went an hour, they weren't going to put us up in a hotel for 3 days. So we would go back and forth. We would go drive for an hour, go play the game, leave at 11 o'clock, come home at midnight, get up in the morning in McCook, and go and drive back out.
Do you have any specific, I know we're talking about the Nebraska State League, do you have any specific recollections of North Platte being any different, being a railroad town or anything like that, or does it all kind of blur together now over 60 years later?
I think it was on a river. Platte River, was it?
Yep.
I remember that. It was, McCook had nothing. I mean, it was the middle of nowhere. But we didn't stay long. Most of our trips were 1 day.
Uh-huh.
We didn't stay 3 days. But we did stay, I don't know which town it was, but we stayed in this beat-up old hotel, right? So my father always told me, when you stay in a strange hotel, always look for the fire escape. He says, because if it burns up, because my father travels a lot, he said you know how to get out. So I looked for the fire escape, open the window, there's a rope hanging out the window, like 3 floors down. What's the first thing that's going to burn in a fire? The rope. So that was my opening, but it wasn't traveling like the next year at Davenport. We'd be gone for like 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Living in a hotel and all of that. These are quick stops mostly.
No. The McCook Braves. You guys won the state league title that year. You had some future major leaguers. I think you mentioned to me in one of our previous conversations, you had a pretty experienced leader and manager in Bill Steinecke. What do you remember about him as leading your team?
He was not like my high school coach who led us in prayer before a game. He was he was an old guy who's been all around as a minor league manager up to AAA and all that. I think he was a coach in the big leagues at one point, but he was, I don't know. To me, he was an old man. Maybe he's 60, fat. He chewed tobacco. He spit the tobacco juice down his shirt. He looked like a mess when the game was over. And he was profane. I mean, we said, in my Catholic school, we said prayers before a game. This guy was obscene. I mean, he taught us language we never knew existed.
I mean, how much was it as much of a shock to the other guys out of high school as it was to you to be in such a different environment with different leadership like that?
Well, we had 2 groups of players. There were the high school kids and the college kids. Like Phil Necro was the oldest high school kid. I guess he was like 19. And they hung out and went to the movie theater and threw popcorn off the balcony. The other guys were college graduates, 21, 22 years old. They rented a house, had parties with girls, drank beer, and lived a quasi-adult life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our life was like a teenage kid's life, but in the middle of nowhere. You know, there was nothing to do. I mean, on the night, on the weekends, and late at night, the kids in McCook would drag Maine. You know, they'd drive up and down the hill, wave to each other.
Yeah.
The same people they see in school every day.
Yep.
And we would be sitting on in front of the hotel watching them going up and down the street and waving to each other. I didn't even know what dragging Maine meant. Because in Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut, where I originally grew up in, Main Street was a major, you know, it was like New York City, a minor league, small New York City, like 120,000 people. So nobody dragged Maine.
It was also a lot of farmers, ranchers, cowboys out there too, right?
Well, the Cowboys didn't like us. The ball players and the Cowboys had one problem. Those were like the exotic arrivals in town. The ball players who might go on to be big leaguers, and which was a great entree with a lot of the girls in McCook. You know, they didn't want a McCook guy. They didn't want to marry some guy from McCook. They wanted to marry some minor league ball player who might become a big leaguer. Then the Cowboys came in. I think it was the Red River County Fair. I think that's what it was called, the Red River County Fair.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with the Cowboys was they didn't like sharing the girls with the baseball players. And we had more fights with the Cowboys, who are a lot rougher than our 18-year-old kids. However, we had some 22-year-old guys who grew up in inner cities in the Northeast who were tough guys. So that was when we would go to the fairs and we meet the Cowboys would be there, and pretty soon there would always be a brawl. I didn't get involved with the brawls because I was scared to death.
Well, you were a bonus baby. You needed to protect your right arm, right?
Yeah, I mean that's all I knew. You know, I didn't know anything. I had no idea of having a good time in McCook. I just wanted to pitch. When was my next game?
So,
you know what I mean?
So we know in the fall, spring, you did a great job chronicling your struggles of control and establishing yourself as a pitcher. How about Phil Niekro? McCook was a turning point for Phil Niekro, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Phil was at Wellsville in New York, which was a good D team. Don't forget, in the minor leagues in those days, there was AAA, AA, A, B, C, D, and rookie. So there were the Braves had 4 Class D teams.
Okay.
So you could move up 4 times in the year and still be in Class D.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Phil came from a high Class D team where he didn't do well. It was Wellsville, New York. I think it was the New York Penn League. And he didn't have much confidence in his knuckleball. And he was afraid to throw it. And if he hit you in the head with a fastball, you wouldn't even get a headache. And he had this big sloppy overhand curve that sort of just rolled to the plate, you know?
Yep.
And after about a week or 10 days, his earned run average was 7-something.
Yep.
So Steineke, the manager, called him aside. He says, what do you think you were going to do after you left baseball? He said, I was going to work in a steel mill like my father did for 30 years, right? So Steineke said, if you don't start throwing your knuckleball in another week, you're going to be in that steel mill. I think it was Bridgeport, Ohio, on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. Anyway, and Steineke told him, he said, I don't care where the ball goes. Over the guy's head, in the dirt, hit him in the head you throw every pitch a knuckleball. Phil did it. And he had rough spots But pretty soon he flattened out, and he was throwing strikes with the knuckleball, and nobody could hit it. I mean, in those days, nobody saw knuckleballs. Nobody threw one. There's a few guys in the big leagues, Hoyt Wilhelm and a couple of other guys.
Yep.
But in the minor leagues, you never saw it. And so Phil he went from I think it was like either 0 and 5 or something like that, and he went 7 and 7 he was 0 and 2, and he had an earned run average of about 7. And at the end of the year, his earned run average was like 190 or something, and he was the MVP of the league.
Well, you guys won. It was a 62 game schedule. You guys won 43, and you were the best team. Who were some of the other big contributors to that successful season in McCook?
There was Dennis Overby was a left-hander from Wisconsin, and I never understood it, but he had a lights-out season. And Paul Chenger from Pennsylvania, a college guy, short bulldog type of guy. He had a great overhand curve and a good fastball, but it was straight as a string. And both of those two guys had great records.
Yeah, Overby led the league in strikeouts with 136, and Chenger was the ERA champ at 2.13. So
yeah, right. So they were both really lights out. I mean, they won. I would say they won half of our 40 game. I won 3 games and lost 3. I had a lot of no decision. The good thing about I was wild all the time. I averaged about 9 strikeouts a game, and I walked to 8 batters a game. But the thing was, our team was so good that if I walked a lot of guys and left the game losing 5-2 in the 5th inning, they came back, and I never got a loss. Because they were such a good team.
Right.
There was a guy, Barry. I can't remember his last name. Big, handsome, blonde guy, looked like Mickey Mantle.
Okay.
And he was supposed to be the Braves version of Mickey Mantle.
Right.
He's a left-handed swinger from big muscular guy, hit the long ball. He never made it, and we had good infielders.
You said
good infielders. Ron Hunt was the third baseman.
Yep. And you said Ellie Hendricks was a catcher, correct?
Yeah, but he was there. He wasn't a starting catcher.
Okay.
I forgot who the guy was. He was a college guy. Was a starting catcher. Well, Wayne Jinsky was also a catcher. But Ron Hendricks he was okay as a catcher. But the only reason he went to the big leagues is because they had a lot of Baltimore had a lot of Latin pitchers who didn't speak English, and Elrod spoke Spanish.
Right.
So he was like the guy. Every time there's a Spanish pitcher for Baltimore, Elrod would be the catcher.
Well, that was the time period where Baltimore, they spent a lot of money signing guys and bringing them up to the minor leagues, and ultimately led to their becoming a powerhouse in the American League by the mid '60s.
Yeah, but Elrod was okay. Jinsky, the other catcher, was a hyper-low guy. He used to drive me nuts because he was always bouncing around behind the plate. You know what I mean? I couldn't hit a moving target, much less one that's moving around.
So we mentioned a fall, spring. We're many years removed from McCook and North Platte and the Nebraska State League. You did an excellent job chronicling it. You look back now, and we know you pitched in the minors a couple of years after that. But just thinking about that first experience as an 18-year-old, seeing so much so different for the first time, when you think back to the Nebraska State League, what are the things that come to mind that are the indelible memories?
Well, the isolation of the town and where we were, and plus everybody was different than us. I mean, a lot of the guys were from New England. And, we went to New York City. We saw a Yankee game. We lived in sophisticated town like Fairfield, Connecticut. My town was a very wealthy town. It was hard for us. I mean, everybody was a farmer out there. I mean, if you met a girl, like one girl I met, we went to the movie theater, and she was a farm girl, and she grew up doing farm work. I mean, I never met a girl who was a farmer,
right?
Who slopped the pigs and picked up the horse manure and all that stuff.
You never heard of that before?
No, I mean, I thought a cow. You go down A&P and buy a steak in aluminum foil. These people had cows that they had their steaks from. I didn't understand it, and it was totally foreign to me. I mean, if they had gone to New England, they would have been shocked at the expansion of the amusements out there for kids in New England.
Right.
But there was nothing. I mean, like, McCook led the league in attendance, but there was nobody in the town. But they had nothing to do.
Right, Yep, 20,000, drew about 20,000 fans there for 30-something games.
Wait a minute. No, that wasn't McCook in 1959.
I don't know. Well, no, the attendance, according to the stats, they had 20,000 attended the games over the course of the season.
Oh, over the season? I thought you were talking about one day. No, and they were all there. I'll tell you what, the games were great because they were so, like, if you weren't starting, you would go in the bullpen. And the bullpen was, the stadium was just like an old high school stadium with the slats, the wooden slat. And there was a couple of slats in the bullpen. And in the bullpen, we would always talk to the people in the bullpen, and they would get hot dogs for us because we were relief pitch. I mean, like, I would be in the bullpen, but if I pitched the day before I went 6 innings, I wasn't going to pitch the next day, so I went in the bullpen to hang out.
Right.
And so we talked to the girls, we talked to the fans. They brought us food, and at the end of the game, we had the bullpen balls, and we always tossed them a bullpen ball to thank them for the hot dogs that they brought us, you know? And it was really, I didn't know that kind of small town familiarity and friendship people had. Because I never grew up in a small town. You know, I pitched my game and went home.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, as I wrote in the book, we had to walk home to a Legion Hall to shower and change our clothes, which was about a mile away. And I would walk on the sidewalk in my uniform, and always somebody would pick me up from the town and drive me there. You know, and because I didn't have a car. No, not many of us had cars out there. And the only guys that did were the college guys, and they didn't want to have anything to do with the high school kids. But it was very nice for me. But I didn't appreciate it because I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't care about I didn't want to be friends with anybody in town. I didn't want to. You know, all I want to do is pitch.
Well, I mean, you've alluded to it in the course of this conversation, Pat. You know, you are very purposeful. You know, if people read your books, they'll understand the upbringing that you had. Your brother was a little bit older than you, and your talent was very, very evident at a young age. And I mean, you made an interesting comment earlier. You signed, I think it was a $36,000 bonus, and you were paying off the mortgage for your family. I mean, you're making it as a bonus baby. With the Braves was really, really important for your family.
That was my job. My brother was going to college. My father didn't have enough money to pay for him. He was at Georgetown. But he was the son of my mother's first husband, who became a millionaire. And my father went up there and got my half-brother's father to contribute to his college at Georgetown and Georgetown Law. So nobody in our family had money, and my father was a gambler. You never knew whether you were going to lose a house the next day or not.
Right, you did a great...
I was the breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first check I wrote was $4,800 to pay off my mother and father's mortgage.
And then your career, your minor league career, was stretched for 3 years. And what did you end up doing after your pitching days were over?
I kept all that money. I never spent any money. I didn't want anything. You know, I bought a car. That's about it.
Uh-huh.
And I got married in '60, so I was in the minor leagues when I was married.
Mm-hmm.
And as a married guy, the very first thing I ever did was get health insurance for me and my wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Blue Cross. And I went from being a kid to being a grown-up, with no space in between. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was a kid who had no social graces, except if you wanted to talk about my pitching. And I had no social graces. I didn't know how to communicate or talk to people. And then all of a sudden I'm married, and then we had 3 kids right away. And so I was either a kid or a married guy.
Right.
I never had that period between 18 and 23 or 4 where you lived a little bit, you know, had a couple of girlfriends or whatever. And so it was like childhood, teenage years in McCook, and then 3 years later I was an adult with a wife and children.
So if I remember correctly, you taught and then you were doing writing on the side, and then eventually you became a very talented writer and ended up doing that full time.
Well, it wasn't eventually. It took me a long time. The only reason I wanted to write, because I wanted to write an expose about how the Braves ruined my career. Right? So I eventually wrote this expose called The Fall Spring.
Right.
The only problem was I discovered that I was the one who ruined my career, not the Braves.
Well, that's what made you the writer that you are. So just talk briefly about the process that you went through mentally and emotionally in writing A False Spring to chronicle those days over 60 years ago in the Nebraska State League. What made you saying you thought you were going to expose the Braves, but you ended up exposing yourself?
That's exactly it. That's when I realized I was a writer, because I had a real axe to grind with the Braves. And then I found out that I was the problem, not the Braves. And I wrote it. And I didn't write about how terrific I was and the Braves ruined my career. I wrote about how I ruined my career. And when Sports Illustrated read the first 30 pages, Ray Cave was the editor, he said, "Don't stop." He said, "Here, we're going to give you $21,000 to publish this when you finish the book."
Well, according to Sports Illustrated, it's number 37 in the top 100 sports books ever written. So it was a great story.
That's bullshit.
It should be higher or lower?
Here, let me tell you. Sports Illustrated, when Ray Cave was there, I was the golden boy in Sports Illustrated. Because the problem with working at Sports Illustrated, I never went up the ladder from all the Time Life magazines to Sports Illustrated. I came out of the blue. I wrote this book. Ray Cave hired me, published everything I wrote for like seven years, and then he got fired. The guy who took no, he didn't get fired. He became the editor of Time Life, and the guy who took over hated me. And basically, that was the end of my Sports Illustrated career.
Right.
So the problem with, hold on a second.
Sure. We're talking with Pat Jordan, Nebraska State League. Yes, go ahead.
To become a writer was a very long process for me.
Right.
And I approached it maniacally as I did baseball. I got every magazine, Saturday Review, New Yorker, Life, Time, everything, and read them and tried to understand what writing was like. And and then I would write I had an office room. I was teaching high school English, a girls' school. And I'd come home at night at 9 o'clock, at 9 to midnight, I'd write in my room trying to write things. And I would send it out, and I never got an answer.
Right.
And I got one answer, which was a scribbled note saying, next time you write a story, send it to me, and an editor. But the first story I approached writing like I approached baseball. Totally maniacal.
Right. Well, let me, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So we have a couple of minutes left here. So I wanted to ask you, so in 1997, you go back and pitch in the minor leagues for one inning and chronicle that in A Nice Tuesday, which reflects a little bit on your previous work. As we wrap up for our listeners, maybe you could explain, why was it so important for you to go back at the age of 56 to pitch in the minor leagues one more time?
Because I did not accept failure. It drove me nuts that I failed like that. And I finally, I'll tell you, this is very funny. Mike Vick, Bill Vick's son.
Yes.
I knew him well, and he had that minor league team in St. Paul.
Yes.
That always had some gimmick, some gimmick ball player. And he called me up one day. He said, "You ever think you're going to pitch again?" "Yeah, I'll pitch for you." So he said, "Go ahead, get in shape." So I started getting in. I said, I was 56. I said, I'm going to solve this problem that I had when I was a 21-year-old kid. And I'm going to pitch. I just wanted to, be respectable. So I started. I could barely reach home plate. It took me 6 months, and I got a high school kid to catch me, and I picked up a nice slider. It was throwing about 85 miles an hour, 86, and so I called Beck and told him I'm ready to pitch. He said, "I just hired Isla Borders, a girl to pitch for us." He said, "I can't have an old man and a girl on our team." So I said, "I spent 6 months getting in shape." So he sent me to what was the league?
It was with Waterbury, wasn't it?
Waterbury Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a A-League, AAA league.
Yep.
They had a big league pitcher, left-hander from Seattle, who's coming back from arm trouble, was on the team. And so I went. I told them I wanted to pitch. So they made me come to Waterbury and throw to make it. They thought it was a joke, like George Plimpton.
Right. Okay.
Funny. George Plimpton's books were all jokes. This was not a joke for me. It was serious. So they realized I could throw the ball up to the plate respectably. So the game came, and the manager of the opposing team wouldn't come out on the field until he saw me warming up in the bullpen.
Yep.
He better. So I threw in the bullpen for him. Okay. So I went out to this is a funny story. They had a kids' day, and I had a beard then. And so they had Little League kids. And each of the Little League kids would go out holding hands to the player that was in their position. Like the shortstop would take him out,
right,
and the center fielder. So now I'm getting up, and there's a kid looking for the pitcher. And there's a guy with a white beard, right?
Because you're the starting pitcher of the game, correct?
Yeah. So I had to grab the kid's hand and take him out to the pitcher's box. Anyway, It went well, but I buried it. I buried it that day because I don't like to fail at anything.
Well, for those of you who, I'll do a spoiler alert here, is that Pat Jordan got them out in the top of the first, 1, 2, 3, and to the surprise of the third batter, who was looking fastball, if I'm not mistaken, Pat, you threw him a breaking pitch to strike out the third hitter of the inning. Is that correct?
Okay, I had a good slider.
Slider, okay, yep.
My fastball was good, but I didn't have good control over it. But my slider was good, and I had more control. So I got 2 outs with the slider. So now the batter comes up, number 4. So he was leading the league. So I said to myself, he's guessing a slider right off the bat because I got 2 outs with it. So I threw him a fastball right down the pipe. He took it. So now I threw another fastball up and in. He swung through it. 2 strikes. Now he got 0-2 on him. He said, this son of a bitch is going to try to throw a fastball by me again. So I gave him a slider, and he went down on one knee, and the bat, you know how they do when they're picked out, and the bat swings with only one hand?
Yep, right.
Strike 3.
Way to go. That was a great way to...
It only took me 30 years,
well,
32 years.
Yeah, full circle. I mean, it's like orbiting the sun. It's just it's a real slow path around the sun. I mean, life is like that sometimes. You did a great job chronicling it. And Pat, I want to thank you so much for taking us back in time to the Nebraska State League and sharing your memories today.
Thanks.
And we're back. That was a great interview with Pat Jordan, but I want to remind everybody that you are listening to Baseball's Last Frontier, Stories from the Pecos League. I'm Bruce McClure, and I am here with North Platte 80s bullpen coach Evan Katz. Evan, why don't you catch us up on what's going to be happening this week for you guys?
Well, we're getting ready to head down to McCook tonight. It's about 70 miles south of here, and hope our listeners got a glimpse of what it's like. Down in McCook, it's a little bigger than it was in 1959, and so we're looking forward to playing down there. We're going to be playing the Santa Fe Fuego, hopefully, to get another game in. But after that, we have got they're at the end. I should mention this. This is again another Pecos League oddity.
Mm-hmm.
They're on what I call a rubber band road trip. So they left Santa Fe. They played 1 game in Trinidad, Colorado, which is on the way here. They're here for 2, and the rubber band snaps back. They stop in Trinidad on the way back, and then they're home. So it's 1 game in Trinidad, 2 scheduled for here, 1 back in Trinidad, and they're home. So that's Santa Fe's typical Pecos League road trip. For us, we have a very standard road homestand of 3 games with Trinidad starting on Thursday until Saturday, and then on Sunday. Actually, I should say Saturday. We're playing at 9 o'clock Saturday. The reason we're playing 9 o'clock on Saturday is we have to drive 475 miles to Iola, Kansas, where we'll be staying overnight in some dorms at Allen Community College. And on Sunday morning, we're going to Kansas City to play in Satchel Paige Stadium against the Kansas City Iola Hormigas. And this is a part of a 10-game, 2,100-mile road trip. We'll be playing KC Iola, Garden City. We're going all the way west to Santa Fe, and we're going to follow the same route that they took and go to Trinidad and then come home. We will cover in 10 days a third of our road mileage for the season of about 6,200 miles.
So your car is tuned up, oil's changed, washer fluid is topped off. That thing's ready to go?
Well, I think Todd may be driving on that. I think
Okay.
I'm going to be riding shotgun. I'm going to be telling stories with Todd, keeping him awake. I think he's volunteered his truck for this road trip, but I think my car is probably going to do some of the shorter trips later on.
That's 2,100 miles. That's amazing.
And no days off. So when we get up in the morning from the game the night before, we have to travel to the next city and be ready to play that night at 6:30. So it's going to be a road trip that's going to test the team. It's going to be an adjustment for a lot of the college players that haven't done this before. Now, they've been on road trips. They don't have as many games in a row. They usually have a bus. They're in their own cars, but it's a challenge, and it's really a growth opportunity. It's really a time for them to figure out how they can perform well in the baseball field. Let's call it under less than ideal circumstances. It's part, and I think from the guys we have, I think they're going to rise to the occasion. We're looking for some good results while we're gone for 10 days.
Do teams share any itineraries or good routes or good stop-offs for eats or anything like that? I'd be interested to know if there's any sharing like that.
I think that from talking to players, everyone, once they've traveled to a city and been to a city, they know what's there. As I asked Todd when we were in Garden City about a gym, he goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. The players can sniff out gyms. They can find one in 5 minutes."
Huh.
And sure enough, there was a Y down the road. I went there myself, $5 guest pass. I got to work out at the Y in Garden City. Food we had in Garden City, they have a breakfast buffet, which was the players love, of course. So it varies a little bit, but between the experienced players who have been here and players playing on different teams, word spreads really fast, especially in some of the established locations. For example, many players coming to North Platte for the first time may not know what's available, but the veterans do. And once the league team franchise has been in the league for a year or two, players figure it out really fast. They're very resourceful. Their instincts kick in: food, gym, good sleep. Those are the goals.
Now, I'm sure with your vast expense account, you were able to expense that $5 to get that back at the end of the season, right?
Which $5 was that now? What? Oh, the gym.
$5 for the Y.
Right,
the
right.
$5 for the Y.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, that comes right out of my bank account. That's professional development.
Okay.
Shape,
Okay.
and I got to be able to keep up with these guys.
Uh,
I go to the gym every day if I can, and I'm trying to keep my arm in shape for when I get back to in August to play adult baseball. So I try to throw once a week. So yeah, very important. I can sniff out gyms pretty well myself.
All right. So we have learned that Evan does not have an expense account, and we're going to find out at the end of the season if he breaks even on all of this.
We'll keep tabs.
There you go.
The gym tab for the year.
Nice. All right. For more information on the Pecos League, check out their website at pecosleague.com. And you can catch all the action in 2025 at pecosleague.tv too. And finally, if you're a hardcore baseball fan, you need to join the Society for American Baseball Research, the premier baseball community. Offering an amazing baseball buffet of options to explore your fandom, SABR boasts more than 35 different research committees, over 80 regional chapters, and innumerable opportunities to connect with baseball minds across the world. For more information, go to sabr.org today. Evan, any last thoughts?
No, I think we're good, Bruce. It's going to be great being in McCook. Thinking about Pat Jordan being there 66 years ago, or actually we were out having pizza last night, and I saw the starting pitcher sitting across the table from me last night, Trevor Nelson, who's really valuable. He's our player rep and helps Todd manage the games. I said, "Trevor, you're going to be the first pro pitcher to be on that mound in 66 years in McCook, so make sure you take some pictures."
All right, one last question. How was the pizza?
Oh, it was good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah,
Right.
thin crust. I'm a numbers guy, and I said to Todd, as we're sitting there, I said, "Oh, Todd, this is a good pizza. I like it's a thin crust pizza. So the ratio of toppings to bread is really good." And he goes, "Oh yeah, you are a finance guy."
It's all about the food. It's all about the food. All right, let's get everybody out of here. For Evan Katz, I am Bruce McClure. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next week.